Hey watch friends, today we're going to check out a prototype of the latest offering from the microbrand Revelot, and this is their Admiral GMT. This actually launches on their website on May 3rd of 2023, so shortly after publishing this video. Additionally, being a prototype, we will talk about some production updates, particularly for this variant, as we go throughout. But before we dive into the watch, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the packaging. If you've seen any of my past Revelot videos, you're likely already familiar with this packaging. It comes with the same familiar, heavily textured cardboard box. You've got the gold accent that sticks out on the left side, as well as the Revelot logo. You slide that open, and you have just a basic pillow this comes with, your 2-year warranty card, and otherwise is the same familiar kind of 2-pouch construction that we've seen. Additionally, this particular version does come with your option of either the silicone strap that we see here or the bracelet we'll look at throughout. The silicone strap, this black version, does have a white accent down the middle, a custom buckle, as you can see there, and quick release spring bars on the back. Alright, now that we have a better feel for how this ships, let's go ahead and check out, we'll first knock out the specs, and then we'll take a deeper dive look into it. The case is coming in at 41.6 millimeters, measured roughly from the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock position. The bezel does step down slightly and is coming in at 41.2 millimeters. The lugs are a strap change friendly 22 millimeters, and you have the available options of the bracelet or the silicone strap that we looked at a moment ago. The lug to lug is coming in at 48.6 millimeters, so plenty versatile, especially for its size. It should fit a wide range of wrist. The thickness is coming in at 13.5 millimeters, and that is including this flat sapphire crystal, which does have inner AR. The crystal sits ever so slightly proud of the bezel. The movement is a Seiko NH34, which if you're not familiar with that, it's an automatic movement, around 40 hours of power reserve, hacking, hand winding, all that kind of good stuff. The NH34, unlike the 35 and some other variants, this actually adds the GMT complication for that. So as we'll look at, it does have a die bezel paired with a GMT complication, which is pretty cool. As far as the water resistance, as you can see on the dial, it's 200 meters or 20 atmospheres. The weight, sized to my 6.5-inch wrist, on this bracelet is coming in at 181.5 grams. On the silicone strap, that's coming in at 117.6 grams. Alright, so now that we have all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and take a deeper dive look into the watch itself. First, for the colors. This comes in 8 different variants, so you've got plenty of choices available. There's of course the full Loom white variant that we're looking at today. There's additionally a green version, a black with red accent version, an orange full Loom version, an aqua full Loom version, a meteorite, another orange variant that is not full Loom, as well as a blue variant. So you have plenty of choices available there. All of them are going to carry through with the radar theme of this watch. So you particularly notice it around the perimeter of the bezel with the way that that's cut in. But the whole thing is designed to give that radar vibe and feel. And part of that is it actually adds a lot of layering as well. So it's almost like a reverse sandwich where you have the out on the perimeter instead of a chapter ring, where you do have a rehaut as well. But where the chapter ring would customarily be, you actually have the nice raised up section that then steps down to the actual dial. As far as the dial, all of them are going to feature a variant of a whirlpool effect. On this white version, as you can see, it is a very subtle effect. However, on some of them, it's much more pronounced. So depending on your particular flavor, as far as color preference, as well as how aggressive you want that to be, you do have options available. The dial is going to have printing at the 12 o'clock position with their logo and symbol, and then down at the 6 o'clock position you'll have 3 lines of text with the name, automatic, as well as the water resistance. Do note on the production version, the 6 o'clock text is going to be reduced in size slightly. Out on the perimeter, you do have a rehaut, which is going to have your 24-hour numerals. So while the dive bezel provides different functionality there, you do have true to the GMT function with the 24-hour markers on the rehaut. The date window is located at 6 o'clock, and that's framed inside of that radar type effect there with the cutouts. Do note on this particular variant, the date window is actually or the date wheel rather, is going to be changed over to white to better match the dial itself. So that will shift over from the black on this prototype version. As far as the hardware, the handset is, as you can see, a customized handset, and this is designed with a very specific chip in mind, which is a really, really cool touch and plays well into the radar theme. As you can see, it has some skeletonization. Additionally, very subtly, it does have the application of brushing down the middle as well as polishing out on the edge, and this one's kind of like a gunmetal coloration. The second hand is somewhat delicate for that, and the GMT hand is very similar with just an arrow tip out at the end. So not a lot of differentiation there, and that's something I wouldn't have minded to see a little bit, particularly an accent on the GMT hand, as we'll talk about as we go through. The markers themselves are integrated into that quasi-chapter ring that's out on the edge there. So you actually have those hashes that come in to give you your 5-minute indications as you go through. So plenty of legibility despite the different style. As far as the Loom, this one actually performs quite well in my experience, but one thing to note is they are saying that the production version is going to be even more applications of Loom, so it should be even more intense. But this being a full Loom variant, you've got it on the hands, the dial, all around the bezel, all over the place, just packs plenty of Loom punch, and anytime I've looked at this, it's been glowing very distinctively. As for the bezel on this, as we already talked about, is a dive style configuration paired with that GMT. It is a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and we'll check out that action here momentarily. The bezel insert is a brushed ceramic, and you can see it's black on this particular variant. The edge of the bezel is a nice knurled pattern for that, and no issues whatsoever with grabbing hold of that attraction. And while we're checking that out, let's go and listen to that action. As you can hear, it's definitely what I would call on the medium to light side. It does not have much of any play to it, so I think it's pretty well dialed in overall. I probably prefer a little heavier myself, however that's just preference based, but the alignment seems to be pretty solid, the action itself, minimal back play, so I think it's pretty solidly done. As far as the case on this is to me very reminiscent of one that we'll look at here, and that is the Zelos Hammerhead. You can see it's a very angular design with lots of flats. Certainly it does have a unique profile, as we'll see when we have this next to the Hammerhead, but it does very much put me in mind of that style, and that's one that I enjoy, and I like it here as well. The finishing is going to be brushing all the way throughout, so you can see across all of those flats and slabs, and you've got a lot of different planes, a lot of different light play that comes with that, but you have a generous application of brushing, which I think again is in keeping with the very utilitarian and industrial kind of vibe that this has going on. You have a nice downturn to the lugs, so that does steeply cut there. It's exaggerated by the cuts into the lug, but it does come down to the actual case back, which is nice. In between the lugs, you can see that you do have a straight cut in there, so that adds for not only the straight and like bracelet that we'll talk about further, but it also adds for standard strap changes. You don't have to worry about getting curved. It will have a nice tight fit there. On the 3 o'clock side, you can see it does have an integrated crown guard for that, so that just houses in right into that cut in the lug. As far as the crown itself, as we mentioned, is at the 4 o'clock position. It is coming in at 6.8 millimeters, and it is, of course, a screw-down configuration. It matches the bezel with its knurl pattern there, and then on the outside, you can see it matches with the dial and carries through with their logo. As far as the case back, this one will be changing fairly significantly on the production version. Right now you can see it is an etched in or milled in kind of configuration, but on the production version it's actually going to be a 3D stamped, so that will actually have a lot more depth. But it is a screw-in construction. It features their logo in the middle, and then it radiates with that same whirlpool kind of pattern that you have on the dial, so that's a nice mirror complement and accent there. Shifting over to the bezel, to the bracelet rather. The bracelet is tapered from 22 millimeters at the lugs down to 20 millimeters at the clasp. It does have female end links, as I would call them, because if this was a traditional fitted end link there, that'd be a female kind of coupling. As you can see though, it does not have fitted end links, so this does just come with straight end links, and we'll talk about that further. To me, the whole effect of this with being the 5-link construction, I think it has a very industrial vibe, which I think fits the overall style of the watch quite well, and I like that. Additionally, it does carry through with the brushing that we saw in the case as well. This does feature quick release spring bars on the back, so that's a welcome addition, and it has excellent articulation as well. As you can see, it folds flat to the case back, drapes nicely over finger as well, so no issues there. There are some changes that should be noted on the production version. They are actually going to tighten up the gap in between these links, and additionally they're going to soften the edges. Right now they are a little bit on the sharp side, particularly on the outside edge, so they will be breaking those and adding a little bit of a chamfer there to make it more comfortable overall. As far as the clasp is one of the great things about this bracelet, And it is, as you can see here, it's going to be a milled construction. It's a double pusher. They will actually be updating the logo. They haven't settled on the final version of that. They might shrink it down. They might go with just the logo for that, but they will be making some changes to the clasp. But the biggest thing with this is, like we've seen on some Christopher Wards and Zellos, this has a toolless micro adjust. So you can see, just grab a hold there and it just slides in and out. So you get the full ratcheting style. So once that's open, you can just click that back into place. So that's always a welcome addition and something that I'm very glad to see incorporated. And I wish that all of them would come with that. So that's really excellent touch there. All right, so now that we have a better feel for the watch itself, let's go ahead and bring in some comps. Naturally, the first one I want to bring in is going to be this Zellos Hammerhead 3. And this one, as we'll see, I think compares very similarly to this one. This one comes with a chunkier case, so it's 44 millimeter case versus this one at 42 millimeters. However, you can see, and of course the layouts and overall aesthetic is very different. But the biggest thing where you're going to see similarities is looking at the case shape. Certainly very different, very distinctive for this. The Hammerhead has much more of a curve and flow underneath for that, whereas this is more of a straight cut. But to me, the overall layout of the two, I think, is reminiscent. Let's go ahead and set that one aside and bring in, naturally, I wanted to bring in the other Revelot, very popular model here, or I should say another Revelot. This is their Hex Mariner. This is the 42 millimeter version. They do have a 40 millimeter version as well, but this gives you an idea as far as kind of the sizing there. You can see overall case presence is pretty similar, but a different feel and vibe across the board. And then just bringing in a different one. This is another 42. This is the Henry Archer, and this is their Knurled. As you can see, a lot more dial presence on this one. Shrinks down the bezel and pulls that out, and then it doesn't have the setback like you have with the chunkier case on this. So a lot more dial presence there. So this, in many respects, I think has a dial presence kind of like the Hammerhead, where it is smaller than the dimensions with the Note, but not quite as dramatically so, especially since the Hammerhead is a 44 millimeter. All right, so now that we have all that out of the way, we should have a pretty good feel about the watch itself, but let's go ahead and wrap things up with my personal view of the positives, some critiques, as well as the overall summary. For the positives, we didn't talk about pricing yet. Pricing, I definitely think, is very solid on this. It is on the bracelet going to be launching at $295 or starting at $295, and then on the silicone strap only $249, for which you're getting the GMT complication, sapphire crystal, the toolless micro adjust, all those kind of good things. I think it's very reasonably priced. The dial pattern, I think, is pretty slick. You know, I like the overall theming for this. I think it's an original idea with going with that radar theme. I think the application as far as with that whirlpool pattern, while that is pretty subtle on this white version, I like it on the other versions where it is more pronounced, but I think it works well on this variant too, and I'm glad they didn't keep it with just the matte finish of a Loom there. Toolless micro, we've already talked about that. That's always going to be getting a kudos from me. Love having that incorporation. And then color selection. No matter what you like, you've got an option available here. With 8 color selections, you've got so many different styles and options that are available. So that's a great plus. As far as some critiques though, you know, I have to absolutely mention the end links. I'm with many of you. I've seen some of the early commentary when they leaked the photos or started sharing the photos of these. I do wish that this featured fitted end links. I understand why they did it, because they're actually intending to offer this bracelet on their site so that you can purchase this directly, which I think is a cool touch, and I'm sure that will be nice for many people to be able to add it. But I wish they would have done 2 versions, one that was just the generic so you could fit it on any 22 millimeter watch, but additionally I wish they had gone with fitted end links for this. It just feels a little bit incomplete to me without having that level of refinement. The minute legibility, you know, they do incorporate minute legibility. So as you can see here, this kind of goes with the reverse. So you actually go in the empty space for those hashes for your 5 minutes. So that I think actually works well, and I'm glad that they did incorporate the minutes. But I will say, with being the hashes and kind of going through and counting just the little negative space or gaps in between, it is a little bit tougher to tell for precision legibility. So very minor item there, but it is something to be aware of. And then, as we already mentioned, the bracelet on this prototype version is kind of sharp on the outside. It hasn't really bothered me for comfort, but it is something that I do look forward to them breaking that edge on the production version. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, I do wish that they had added a color around that triangle for the GMT, just to add to a little bit better of legibility and distinction between the second hand and the GMT hand there. So really, at the end of the day, where does this leave us? To me, this is a solidly priced offering. It's a rugged construction. I think it's pretty well finished overall for what you're getting. It's a unique incorporation of not only the theme with the radar, but additionally the dive and GMT crossover there. So I think that's a cool touch. And at the end of the day, they've got plenty of colors available. So if you do like this style, if you're looking for a reasonably priced kind of do-all watch, I think this one's definitely worth a look. So do drop a comment. Let me know what you think, which color is your favorite of all the options available. What would you like to see differently? What do you like, etc. And then as always, if you did like the video, please tap that like button. And if you haven't already done so, give that subscribe button a tap. Thanks for watching.